Before this song vanished into the 80s void, it was everywhere. You heard it on the radio, in living rooms, even blasting from car stereos. Joey Scarberry's Believe It or Not hit number 2 on Billboard in 1981. Then Scarberry, gone. Just one unforgettable hit, then silence. This wasn't rare in 1981. The charts were packed with voices that blew up once and disappeared. But some of these tracks, they still slap. From Latin rock fusion to phone numbers that turned into songs, you're about to rediscover 8 forgotten one-hit wonders from 1981. Most of these artists vanished, but the tracks? They're burned into every 80s kid's memory. Let's dive in. Picture this. You're a struggling session musician in Los Angeles, barely paying rent, when suddenly your phone rings. It's legendary TV composer Mike Post. You know, A-Team, Rockford, Magnum Mike Post. And he's got a gig that could change everything. The catch? You're recording a theme song for a superhero show about a guy who can't figure out how to use his powers.
Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. Should have been somebody else.
Sounds ridiculous, right? Wrong. Joey Scarberry was about to stumble into the most unlikely hit of the decade. The show's concept was insane. A regular guy gets a super suit from aliens but loses the instruction manual. But Scarberry's soaring vocals turned this comedy premise into pure audio gold. The song exploded beyond the TV screen, racing up the charts to number 2 and becoming the summer anthem of 1981. But here's where it gets wild. Scarberry thought this was just the beginning. Record labels were throwing contracts at him, fans were screaming his name, and for a brief moment, he was living the dream. What happened next? The show got canceled after 3 seasons, and suddenly nobody wanted to hear from the superhero theme song guy ever again. Scarberry spent the next 40 years trying to escape that red cape, releasing album after album that nobody bought. Sometimes lightning really doesn't strike twice. Okay, imagine you're in a Dutch recording studio in 1980 and you've got this absolutely insane idea. What if we take the biggest Beatles hits of all time, chop them up, and glue them back together with a disco beat? Your friends think you've lost your mind. The record executives think you're crazy. But you do it anyway. And suddenly, you've created the most bizarre #1 hit in American history. That's exactly what happened to Dutch producer Jaap Egermont when he birthed Stars on 45. This wasn't just a song. It was musical Frankenstein. 4 minutes of Beatles classics all stitched together with a relentless dance beat that made it impossible not to move. Radio DJs were confused, but listeners were obsessed. The craziest part? This Dutch experiment became a global phenomenon that sold millions of copies and spawned an entire industry of copycat medleys. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Stars on 45 tried to keep the magic alive with medleys of other superstars, but the train had already left the station. They became prisoners of their own success, forever trapped in that 4-minute musical blender they'd created. Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas are also the most impossible to repeat. Funny footnote, Egermont was also part of Golden Earring, who had a couple of huge worldwide hits with Radar Love and Twilight Zone. From San Francisco comes one of the most accidentally brilliant marketing strategies in pop history. Tommy Two-Tone basically turned prank calling into a legitimate musical genre, and somehow made an entire generation memorize a phone number that would haunt innocent Jennies across America for decades. The premise was beautifully simple. Guy finds mysterious phone number on bathroom wall, becomes obsessed, writes catchy power pop anthem about it. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turns out. The song shot to number 4 on the charts, but suddenly every Jenny in America with that number combination was getting harassed by drunk college kids at 2 a.m. Here's the kicker. Tommy Two-Tone thought they'd found the secret formula for pop success: phone numbers. Why hadn't anyone thought of this before? They spent years trying to recreate the magic with more songs about random digits, but apparently, lightning doesn't strike the same phone booth twice. The band became forever linked to those 7 digits, trapped in a musical phone booth of their own making. Sometimes your biggest hit becomes your biggest prison. From the neon-soaked honky-tonks of Nashville comes one of the most underrated stories of crossover success you've never heard. Terry Gibbs wasn't supposed to be a pop star. She was pure country, through and through. But in 1981, something magical happened when her song about late-night temptation crossed over from country radio to the pop charts like a musical lightning bolt. The song was dangerous in all the right ways. Gibbs's sultry narrative and powerhouse vocals created something that country radio loved, but pop audiences couldn't resist either. This was crossover gold, baby. The kind of song that could make a career. And for a hot minute, it did. The single climbed to number 13 on the pop charts while dominating country radio, and suddenly, Terry Gibbs was the name on everyone's lips. But the music industry had other plans. Just as quickly as the pop world embraced her, it moved on to the next shiny object. Gibbs kept making brilliant country music, racking up hits on the country charts, but that magical crossover moment was gone forever. She became country music royalty but remained a pop culture footnote. Sometimes being too good at your day job means missing out on the bigger prize. East LA, 1981. The Chicano rock scene is exploding, but nobody's paying attention. Until Tierra drops Together and changes everything. This wasn't just another band trying to make it. This was a family affair with serious musical DNA. The Salas brothers had been grinding in the LA music scene for years, and they were about to prove that Latin rock could conquer mainstream America. Together was built like a sonic earthquake. Those horn sections, that irresistible groove, vocals that could melt steel. This was the sound of East LA demanding its place at the pop culture table. The song. The song shot up the charts, crashed onto MTV, and suddenly Tierra was the hottest band in America. Radio couldn't get enough, crowds went absolutely wild, and it looked like they were about to break down barriers that had stood for decades. But then the industry did what it always does. It got distracted. Tierra kept making incredible music, but the mainstream attention drifted away faster than it had arrived. The band never stopped believing in their sound, never stopped creating, but that moment when Latin rock almost took over America, it was over. They became legends in their community, but ghosts to the pop world that had briefly embraced them. This is the story of rock and roll heartbreak that'll make you question everything you think you know about the music business. Phil Seymour had it all: the voice, the songs, the connections. He'd been the drummer and vocalist for the Dwight Twilley Band, touring with Tom Petty, living the rock star dream. Then he went solo, and for exactly one shining moment, it looked like he was about to become the next big thing. Precious to Me was perfection. Power pop at its absolute peak, with hooks that could stop traffic and a melody that invaded your brain and refused to leave. This This was the song that was supposed to launch a solo career that would make everyone forget he'd ever been in a band. The single climbed the charts, MTV was playing the video, and Seymour was getting the kind of attention that turns musicians into superstars. But here's where the story gets absolutely brutal. Just as his star was rising, everything fell apart. The follow-up singles flopped, the album stalled, and the industry moved on with surgical precision. Seymour kept making music, kept believing, but the machine had already decided his 15 minutes were up. He died in 1993, never knowing that Precious to Me would become a cult classic that still makes power pop fans lose their minds. Sometimes talent isn't enough. Sometimes timing is everything. And sometimes the music industry breaks your heart in ways you never see coming. From Pittsburgh comes the story of a guy who spent years grinding in the music business before accidentally stumbling onto the perfect formula for rock and roll gold. Donnie Iris had paid his dues with bands like the Jaggers, but in 1981, he was about to prove that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful. Ah, Leah was basically 3 minutes of a man working through his feelings about someone named Leah, delivered with the kind of passionate intensity usually reserved for declaring war or ordering the perfect pizza. This wasn't This wasn't sophisticated. It was pure, unfiltered emotion set to a guitar riff that could move mountains. The song shot to number 29 and became a regional phenomenon that still gets crowds going wild decades later. But here's what makes this story beautiful. Iris didn't try to chase the pop market after his hit. He stayed true to his blue-collar rock roots, building a loyal fan base that treated him like royalty in Pittsburgh and beyond. While other one-hit wonders spent years trying to recapture lightning, Iris just kept being himself. Sometimes the best response to success is to just keep doing what you love, regardless of what the charts say. After more than a decade of grinding in the British blues scene, Climax Blues Band thought they had it all figured out. They'd toured with everybody, recorded album after album, and built a solid reputation as serious musicians. Then, in 1981, they decided to try something different and accidentally created the most un-blues hit of all time. I Love You was their Hail Mary pass at mainstream success. Slick production, radio-friendly hooks, and just enough of their blues DNA to keep it interesting. The gamble paid off huge. The song shot to number 12 and became their first and only major American hit. Suddenly, these blues purists were pop stars, playing to audiences who'd never heard their previous work and didn't care about their decade-plus of musical credibility. But success came with a price that nearly destroyed them. Their blues fans felt betrayed, the pop world wanted more hits they couldn't deliver, and the band found themselves stuck between two audiences that both felt disappointed. They'd spent years building a reputation, and one pop hit almost erased all of it. The lesson? Sometimes getting what you think you want is the worst thing that can happen to you. There you have it. 8 artists who tasted the lightning of pop success and then watched it slip through their fingers like smoke. These weren't just songs. They were cultural moments that defined the sound of 1981 and then vanished into the vault of forgotten classics. But here's what I want to know. Which of these songs is still stuck in your head right now? Are you humming Believe It or Not, or suddenly remembering Jenny's phone number? Drop a comment and tell me which 1981 one-hit wonder hit you hardest, and don't forget to share this video with someone else who needs a massive dose of musical nostalgia. Trust me, they'll thank you for the trip down memory lane. And if you're hungry about the songs that ruled your world for exactly 15 minutes, smash that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. The music industry graveyard is full of incredible stories, and I'm here to dig them all up.